Welcome to another episode of College Admission TV. JP Novin speaks with Danielle Wilken, President of the University of Bridgeport, and Elena Cahill, Vice President of Strategic Planning, Innovation, and Advancement, for a conversation on AI in higher education.
Welcome to Season 3 of the Higher Education Leader Podcast. This season, we're exploring AI, higher education, and the future of workforce. I'd like to thank our sponsor, Direct Admit and ASU GSV, for sponsoring this season. I'm your host, JP Novin, and I'm honored to be joined by two transformative leaders from the University of Bridgeport in Connecticut. President Danielle Wilken, welcome.
Thank you.
And Vice President of Innovation, Strategy, and Advancement, Elena Cahill, welcome to our podcast today.
Thank you so much for having us.
Pleasure. Happy 2026. And you are my first guest of 2026. So
let's ring in the new year.
Yes, let's set the bar very high for anyone who's going to follow you. Together, you represent a powerful fusion of academic and entrepreneurial grit. Since taking office since 2021, President Wilken, you have led an amazing revitalization of the university, focusing on equity. And Elena, you're a serial entrepreneur, an attorney. You've done some amazing work. So I think you both, and also with the mission that your university has, are well suited to talk about AI and your students and how you're preparing them for this new paradigm that we're facing today. So let's start with the easy question. Okay. How do you, we'll start with you, Dr. Wilken. How do you think AI is going to impact the future of workforce, at least in the next 5 years?
I don't think you can talk about workforce without AI. And so I'm proud to say that at University of Bridgeport, we're expanding opportunities and outcomes for a very diverse global world. And so part of that is really teaching our students about AI, both from a humanistic perspective and from a technical perspective. AI changes how we communicate. It changes how we do our work. It can be a great tool, and it can also be a dangerous distractor. It can give us bad information. So it's really important that we think about how we train the next workforce to use AI, and also to think about it using it responsibly, ethically. And so you have to really think about, there's so many papers out there about how it's going to change the workforce and who needs to do what. But I think from a university perspective, it's really about how do you train students and graduates to be able to leverage the tool effectively and to be able to use it ethically.
Great. Elena, do you disagree? Just kidding. But what's your point of view of this?
That's great. I think that says it all. You have to incorporate AI today. Take an analogy going back when Microsoft products came out and Excel came out. Try to think about not incorporating Excel into life. You couldn't do it, right? It's been there ever since. And I think AI is a similar situation. I think is here. People not dissimilar from Excel, though some will learn it better than others. Some will utilize it better than others. But for us as a higher education institution, it will be ingrained in every part.
And I think it's really, just to put a fine point on it, I think it's really important to embrace it and to not be afraid of it, and to just acknowledge it, that it's here and that it's going to, and recognize that this is a normal part of education. It's a normal part of the paradigm shift, whether it's education or it's the workforce. And so to be able to harness it, use it, leverage it, and move forward with it and not resist it.
Yeah, absolutely. This has the same feeling of intranet, right? If you look at the Alta Vista days, and you know, those first search engines that came about before Google kind of dominated the whole market. But it just seems it just seems like an incredible time to live in terms of how things are getting transformed. Are you concerned though about certain professions or industries in terms of professions being redefined or even going away or being threatened as you think ahead? Do any of these AI, anything about AI and the impact on the job market worry you at all, or are you optimistic about it?
I'm optimistic about it, and I think we need to recognize that skills change over time. But I think about my own children. They have never used, just as a basic thing, they've never used a card catalog in a library.
Mm-hmm.
Like that's an idea that's bizarre and foreign to them. They would never walk up and, go through all the little cards and figure out where their subject is and then go find a book in the library that way. And so, or it's similar to the conversation around use of a calculator. We want students to be able to use a calculator because it is a better tool than perhaps the scratch handwriting it out, but you have to have the skills underneath it to support the understanding of how you get from point A to point B. So I think we will evolve. I think things will change. I think skill sets will need to be modified. But I'm optimistic about how it will move us forward and make us better and stronger. You think about when we wrote our dissertations and the effort it took to copy edit our dissertations and to theme our dissertations, to have something check our work and make sure that it's there. For my own children and for my students, I encourage them to use AI to check their work the same way that we would send students to a learning center and say, have a peer tutor or have a professional tutor review your work. They can do that at home at their convenience or in their dorm rooms. And so I think it gives them more tools to use. And we just need to be good about training them how to use them. They shouldn't be using it to write their paper. They shouldn't be doing it to turn in what should be original work. But what a great opportunity to have something support you in that work. And I think it's the same at the professional level. And, I think about for myself when I have to give a presentation or I have to make an announcement, when you're speaking at an event, I will use AI at times to do a quick merging of my mission and the group that I'm speaking about and thread that needle or go back and check and say, did I miss a key point and be able to further develop my ideas.
And you have a lot of careers that are going to be clinical, right? So you have dental hygiene, you have nursing, chiropractic. I think I read something about Chinese
PA
medicine,
program. Yep.
Education. When it comes to innovation, Elena, how do you look at the shift? And I know you have the Bauer Hollow Innovation Center and what have you. How does all of this come together for you in terms of the various career outcomes, the strategy for preparing the students for to be able to adapt?
I think that, so we have a really good AI lab on campus. We're a little bit spoiled. We have a great AI lab. We also have a robotics lab on campus, which is there's a great synergy between the two. AI has been what I have seen, and let me go back and just lay a foundation. We have programming both for students and for the community. We run accelerator programs and we run an incubator, a high-tech incubator program. So likely any company coming in for this year's cohort, AI will be a component of what they're building, not exclusively what they're building, but a component. And they may have a component that also works in robotics, or they might have a component that works in a biology lab. So I think similar to as we were talking about when other modalities have been entered into our universe, we learn to work with them, use them, adapt them, and make the companies that are coming in better, the best they can be with them. I think in this year's cohort, every company I can think of at the moment will be integrating AI. And I suspect that will happen in the high-tech incubator moving forward. The adoption by the Main Street Business Accelerator programs, that's a different program we run. It's a little bit slower. I think we learned that the education, when folks are outside the high-tech world, it's a little bit slower. The adoption rate's a little bit slower. I think there might be a little bit more fear with the Main Street companies and how to adopt AI. So there's education around, and we actually do a whole segment on how they can utilize AI and have it benefit them. I was part of a PhD dissertation just a few weeks ago regarding entrepreneurship for women in Saudi Arabia. And, you would learn that, again, the adoption rate is much lower than we would like it to be. So we don't force anybody to choose what they want to adopt. We certainly bring it up. I think in our high-tech incubator, every company in some capacity will have this situation. I think in the Main Street businesses, there's a slower adoption rate, which I think we would all expect to be the case. But we're here to really help them understand how to utilize AI and how to help what they're doing improve with it.
Yeah, and to go back to your question about the health sciences space, we've certainly, as a patient, you're always going to want that human touch. You're always going to want to, so I know there's the potential of robots sort of replacing us, but I don't think that that's where we want to land as a society. But I think there's incredible opportunity to increase safety, to increase efficacy, and to make us better practitioners in the health sciences space. So we have invested in all the simulation labs, which leverage AI that allows our students to practice real patient environments before they're out in the clinical practice, whether it's delivering a baby, whether it's a patient that is, experiencing a significant medical emergency, and allows students in that high pressure environment that has low risk patient outcomes to practice those things. The charting, the making sure that carrying over the zero on a chart, or in a prescription, or caring for a patient can have life altering potentially deadly effects. And so leveraging that and teaching our students how to use that sort of environment to be better practitioners as well. And so I think it's all of those, the integration of the humanistic as well as the data and the technology.
In some of the literature, you refer to as UB. Could you explain that for our audience? What,
Sure. So we're University of Bridgeport, and our nickname is UB.
Okay, there's nothing into that outside of that.
No, it's just our initiative.
But so when we talk about UB, I mean, obviously the clinical majors, nursing, dental, hygiene, they're safe, right? But let me pose this question. Computer science major, AI can now write, debug, optimize code faster than junior developers. The grunt work of coding is vanishing, right? And this is a top major at UB. So, President Wilken, how do you shift from just teaching computer science, right, and leaping one step ahead, when it comes to being a programmer or a code writer or an AI architect? I mean, how do you look at that, not just for computer science, but also for majors like accounting and finance, where there are algorithms for auditing, financial modeling, tax preparation, and all these other stuff?
Sure. So first of all, we just invested millions of dollars in a new engineering lab that is focused on robotics, biomedical engineering, the Internet of Things, smart manufacturing, and it is all interdisciplinary. It's actually referred to as the Integrated Emerging Technologies Laboratory. So there we are already thinking, not thinking about, but doing, integrating all of these pieces so that our students are prepared. They can do all this work, and they understand how all the pieces fit together. We also work closely with industry, so we have the opportunity for industry to collaborate with the institution, where our graduate students and our undergraduate students and our faculty are performing research on behalf of significant local companies and you know, as well as national and international companies, so that our students are getting those experiences as in those junior positions while they're still a student. It also allows them to be with a faculty member. It's great that the technology can do this, but when something goes wrong, you need to still understand it's the same. It goes back to the comment earlier, calculators are great, but you need to understand the math underneath it. So then when something does go wrong. And so we have all of these things here. We just acquired a 100,000 square foot building where we have companies who will be co-located and expanding what we have in Bauer in our co-working space, so that companies can be nested right on our campus and do research with our students and leverage our technologies in our laboratories. And so we're always creating those opportunities for students to practice while they're still students. And we do, institutionally, we've adopted universal design for learning as a pedagogical approach, which is really how do you remove barriers to learning and support diverse student learners. And a key component of that is really, and that's a whole separate podcast that we can have, but a key component of that is really providing students with substantive, tangible work while they are here. That is not just write this paper, do this assignment, because it's a theoretical piece, but it's really a robust life experience that is building their portfolio and their knowledge base. And so from our business department, we've created 2 campus companies for our students to run and to be members of, including Purple Knights Coffee Company, from which students went from ideation to developing the strategic plan, developing the business plan, developing the marketing plan, to implementation and actual sales, and continuing to run that, as well as UB Consulting, which does consulting projects. So these are all pieces that prepare students to be able to apply these tools, apply this knowledge at this point in their careers, and be ready for the workforce when they graduate.
Now, of course, you're in a state that you have, Yale, you have University of Connecticut, and correct me if I'm inaccurate about this, but you beat them to the punch on being the first dedicated MS AI in the state.
That is correct.
You have a first mover advantage, and you launch, as you mentioned, your first ever Master of Science in AI, which is amazing. You have a curriculum structure for it on robotics, deep learning, data science. Elena, are you doing all this? What's going on here? There's so much happening.
There's a lot happening. We've always had a really deep engineering school. So back historically, when General Electric, IBM were here, so Connecticut has always been a deep manufacturing state. Aeronautics, Xerox, IBM, General Electric's headquarters was right down the road for many, many years. So our engineering school has always been a very deep engineering school. So I could take no credit for that at all. And
we have amazing faculty.
Yeah. And we, they saw the shifts coming. So that question around computer science is interesting because computer science jobs can be done by AI doesn't mean there won't be computer science jobs. And it doesn't mean that we're not going to stop educating in computer science, but we will partner, as Danielle was saying, with AI, with robotics, with other modalities in the engineering space. So we've had the benefit of being located in a state where we have a lot of this work to do. We have a lot of really good, strong corporate partnerships, and the students have a lot of really good places to have internships. It's shifted a little bit since the origination of the engineering school, where some of these companies have moved to other locations. But Connecticut's first industry is manufacturing till today. It still is.
And I think what's important to students is we've created an ecosystem on campus. So UB has always had a strong school of engineering, which you've well articulated for us. In the last 4 years, we've also, with our partner Goodwin University, we've added the Staines advanced manufacturing center on campus. And so we have advanced manufacturing that's taught in the building right next to the School of Engineering. And so you have, from an ecosystem, when you think about what is manufacturing, what does engineering do, all the faculty and the students are in the same location. Often schools either have one or the other. We have both, and it's created the entire ecosystem from ideation to, production right on campus. And so they're able to cross-pollinate, work together, and it's been informative and important for both teams because it gives them that bigger picture. For example, our physics students needed a piece of equipment. They designed the schematic and then handed it over to the welding students, and the welding students actually built it for them as their capstone assignment at the end of the semester. And so really next level high thinking for students, in addition to and we go from certificate all the way up to PhDs. So you're looking at the entire lifespan, when you think about lifelong learning and the opportunities to stop in, stop out, develop, pivot. We've created that right here at University of Bridgeport. In addition, we host First Robotics, which is an international robotics team which is at the K-12 level. And so we're bringing in the next generation of STEM students by putting them into our ecosystem. So you've got, K-12 all the way up through the adult learner. You talk about, the addition of the Bauer Center for Innovation, the accelerator programs, the co-working space, the research lab that's available and creates the ecosystem with industry. And so right here on our campus, from K-12 to retirement and the entire ecosystem is right here for students to be able to experience that and really make sure that they're workforce ready and understand how all the pieces fit together.
I mean, you do have, I believe Lockheed Martin is there, ASML is there, Pratt and Whitney, I'm assuming.
Correct.
And you also have, obviously, Connecticut healthcare is big, right? So you have a lot of, the Yale Haven Health and Bridgeport Hospital and what have you.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to put on my parent hat now.
Sure.
Okay? And my son is actually pursuing to become an undergraduate philosophy major.
Okay.
So if he were to, looking at it, and obviously, I've always said if you could have a skill that allows you to think, you're fine in life.
Yep.
And be a problem solver, right?
Yep.
But there are a lot of, as a parent, given the cost of education and the disruption that's being created as far as job placement, what do you tell parents like me whose kids want to do humanities and social sciences, and as far as careers and jobs being available for them, what happens to people like us?
So I will tell you, I have a senior in college this year and a senior in high school this year. So this is a big discussion in my household as well. And I think we need to stop making this an all or nothing conversation. Yeah. I think it's the integration of the intellectual skills, the good thinking skill, the critical thinking, the evaluation, the ability to communicate, the ability to collaborate, the ability to work on a team, what we might describe as the liberal arts skills, as well as having career skills and career readiness and having skills that an employer can look at you at day one and say, you know how to take a blood pressure, how to administer a vaccine, on the health sciences side. On the engineering side, how to, I'm not an engineer, so this is a dangerous place for me to be, but, to evaluate the code, to be able to understand how the robotics integrate, to be able to solve a problem. I think we have created a dangerous narrative. I don't know if dangerous is the right word, an unfair narrative in this country where it's, we don't need higher education. You need, skills training. You don't need soft skills. You need I think it's the best employees, the people who are going to get hired and have those great lifetime are those who can adapt to the environment, can understand the challenges, can make ethical decisions, have good communication skills and know how to work on a team, and have tangible, employable skills. Nobody's going to hire me as an engineer tomorrow. Nobody's going to hire me as an engineer ever, but nobody's going to hire me as an engineer because I don't have those skills. I need to come to the table with those skills in order to be a valuable employee. I could go back to my health sciences roots, but I can't, be hired by an engineering firm as an engineer. So I think it's a blend. I think we do students a disservice when we try to make it an all or nothing conversation.
Yeah. I don't know if you want more feedback on that because,
Sure. Yeah.
and I don't think we could have this conversation with that question without talking about the particular school the student goes to.
Mhm.
I think if a student is going for philosophy at the University of Bridgeport, even though we don't have it as a major, it's a different outcome than if the student goes to Wesleyan down the road as a philosophy major. And I think that's reality. And I think it's a fair reality, in all honesty. I think a liberal arts education, a good quality university known for liberal arts education, is covering what we're talking about because that student is also taking a computer science class, and they're also taking a finance class, and they're not going to school and it's just very linear. Like this is all they're going to study is philosophy. So I think that I want to be realistic and say that when we're talking about what the degree as a student is getting, where they're going for that degree is playing a component in the outcome.
And I would also add to that is what do they want to do after graduation? So going back to your example about Wesleyan, they're probably going on to graduate school and they're probably spending more money on their education. And they probably are looking at graduation of high school.
Mm-hmm.
They're probably looking at least 6, 7, 8 years of going to school.
Correct.
And so, which is why I'm proud of the fact that at University of Bridgeport, we have these different on and off ramps so that, you can have the bachelor's degree, the master's degree, the collegiate certificate, because the world is much, the traditional undergraduate student is a single population. And in this country, it's a declining population, according to every report we've ever, that we've seen. There's a much larger workforce out there of returning adult learners, people who are in second careers, people who went to high school, worked, went to the military, and are now returning back. And so we need to be able to, if we're doing our jobs right in higher education, we're serving all of those populations and not just the traditional undergraduate population. And so I think having that flexibility of the curriculum and the career outcomes is important because it's not a homogeneous student population.
Yeah, it is easy to kind of run to some conclusions because we don't really know, down the line, you might find out liberal arts majors are actually going to be well sought after because they have to be the problem solvers and what have you, right?
The critical thinking.
I really like the quote, and I'm not sure if it was you, Dr. Wilken, or it was Dr. Chris. Let me see if I got his pronunciation right. Is Springle?
Springle, yeah.
He said the classroom is the gym, AI is a forklift. You don't bring a forklift to the gym if you want to build muscle.
Yeah.
Okay. I thought that was
Chris.
That was Chris. Okay. So I thought that was an interesting saying, which brings us to this question. At the end of the day, internet changed how we access information. That's why Google is the library of the world. That was their motto at first. Well, what AI has done, not only does it make it more acute in terms of, getting results, but it also analyzes a lot, right? So you could definitely go to AI and ask it very interesting questions, and it could pull a lot of sources and let you know. For example, now you have it at your fingertip, right?
Yep.
You could say, what other colleges or universities in Africa resemble University of Bridgeport, for example, right? And it could pull it up. Imagine how much work we had to do before, right?
Yep.
So it's being used for tools that the expediency of it and the feedback loop of it is just amazing. Even if it's not accurate, but usually is is there, and obviously the input of person matters, like who is putting the information in to be able to understand what the outcome is. Now, having said that, how do you look at pedagogy and curriculum? How do we look at AI literacy in the classroom? Since everyone could use AI to write papers now and analyze, do you see the classroom setting changing as a result of AI? And are you doing that at Bridgeport as well?
Sure. So it is incorporated into our first year seminar. We do professional development for our faculty. We have a faculty portal that has information for faculty about AI. As I said earlier, we use universal design for learning as our university pedagogical approach. And so we are spending lots of time having conversations around curriculum. We are in the process of, looking at and reevaluating our general education core, partly as good practice, but to think about these pieces.
Mhm.
And so it is an important piece of what we need to do in order to make sure that the curriculum and the faculty and everybody is well prepared to step into this brave new future.
Now, you also offer associate degree all the way to doctorate, right? Because
Correct.
there was a
And
merger.
collegiate certificates. Yep.
Could you talk about the merger of having the other campus that joined Bridgeport?
That's another podcast. Sure. Sure. So in 2020, University of Bridgeport and Goodwin University began conversations about becoming essentially sister institutions. And so Goodwin University is located about an hour geographically north of University of Bridgeport. By integrating our two institutions, we have created efficiencies and strength within both institutions. I often describe it as diversifying your 401k portfolio. So University of Bridgeport has a strong reputation in international, graduate going all the way up to PhD. More traditional undergraduate students, a residential population. In comparison, Goodwin goes all the way up through master's degree, but has incredible strength in the collegiate certificate and associate degree, bachelor's degree space. That is its origins. It's a commuter school. There is no residential component. They do have housing in the community, so there are some students who will come for programs and live on campus, but it's not a traditional housing population. And it's a much more adult learner population in terms of adults who are looking to do a career change, very strong in supporting nursing programs and advanced manufacturing programs, often for people who are looking to change their socioeconomic status for themselves and their family by advancing their lives through education. On a technical logistic perspective, most students at either school are aware of it, but it doesn't impact their daily lives. We do have some joint degree programs. So our master's in public health, our master's in education, one of our masters in education, non-certification, they're joint degrees that are taught online, and it's a blend of faculty from both institutions that are teaching those classes, and the students are integrated into the same online classroom. And if you look at their diplomas, it has both schools on it. And so it's a really interesting model in higher education of how do you create efficiencies and leverage the assets of two different institutions.
Thank you for that. It's a very unique position.
It is a very unique position.
Yeah.
And I started on the Goodwin side, and Elena's always been on the UB side, so we have a different perspective of what that was like.
And also just to add, Goodwin has an entire school district, 3-year-olds through high school. So it's more than just a university and an advanced manufacturing center. It's an entire school district with the superintendent of schools. So it's
its own ecosystem.
Yeah, it's brought a really interesting dynamic to the people at the University of Bridgeport who are interested in learning and working more in spaces that they haven't been in. It does afford a really interesting dynamic. something we didn't talk about earlier, but it's probably appropriate to bring up, is we also have FIRST Robotics on our campus now at the University of Bridgeport, which is a robotics program. We've always had classes within high schools, or I should say for quite some time, but it helps us fill out and really fill up that ecosystem of education. Don't even say higher, because literally we start at 3 years old now and go through PhD.
That's
So
great.
it's quite interesting to learn and to be able to integrate those sources. And there's a manufacturing high school. So in addition to all the schools, the high school literally on the campus, a good one, is a manufacturing high school. Super interesting.
And now they're building a tech high school in the process.
Yeah.
That's truly remarkable. You go from 3 to PhD. So obviously the integration of it and the feedback loop is tremendously interesting. But Elena, this is something that I'll be curious. I think our audience will be curious. If you had a chance to design a truly future-focused education initiative. So let's say Dr. Wilken says, Elena, I want you to start from 3 years old to PhD, right? But let's start focusing on these younger K-12, right? How would you prepare this student for a world that is going to be shaped by AI and constant change? How are you going to train? Because before they come to college, they need to have, the exposure and the willingness to adapt to this, to the higher ed education and the changes that are going on as well.
Yes, I think I probably would put a period after word adapt. You want people to be able to adapt. And today we might be having a conversation about AI, and I hope we have more conversations. And 3 years from now, we're going to talk about something else. So I think it's critically important to start at the youngest of ages, a few different things. One, exposing students to many particular interests. Maybe that's the Montessori style school. So if somebody was asking me and I get to design it, I would go a little bit more Montessori, and I would say, listen, expose the students to everything. It's the arts, it's everything that you could possibly expose them to. See what they gravitate to as humans. Think about where you're going to be adopting them. And then to me, AI is a tool set, and you're building their toolbox, right? And you want to build their toolbox with as many tools as possible while honoring and respecting where you think this kid is naturally inclined to want to go, where their interests are. So I think I would be blending the Montessori with maybe more of the European German style. So you're really getting more of an answer than you probably want. But if you ask me what I would do, I would say build every student's toolbox from the youngest age possible. AI to me is indiscriminate. It applies to artists. It applies to engineers. It applies to nurses. Build their toolbox, but at the same time, really expose them to as much as possible to understand where that student is gravitating to.
And I think, to even add to that, it is what we're trying to do at this level as well, or we do at this level. Elena mentioned AI and art. We have an art gallery on campus, and one of our art shows was AI and art. And we have a PhD student who had her artwork in it, and we are not an art school, and it was because that's what she's studying. And so it's really, again, trying not to be in these boxes to the point where it becomes a detriment, but having that flexibility of mind and having flexibility of exposure so that students are ready to tackle whatever comes next. Because there will be, to Elena's point, there will be another paradigm shift. Just pick a day, pick a topic. We don't know what it is yet, but there'll be another paradigm shift. In order for our students and our graduates to be ready, they have to have that pliable, flexible exposures.
So here's another easy question for you. Okay, and this one is,
now I'm nervous.
So it comes down to run rate. So I mean, Industrial Revolution took about 150 years to kind of ferment. Electrical Revolution was about 70 years. Information about 40, 50 years. AI is currently, I'm at the heart of Silicon Valley. Jobs are being displaced. I mean, if you go to San Francisco, you see Waymo taxis more than Uber now. Less and less companies are hiring for a lot of roles. at this point, and actually we're actually seeing students who are graduating from college not finding jobs. I've had several of these conversations with universities and graduates and what have you. We know eventually the workforce will recalibrate, okay? But with every revolution, we've had like time to breathe and kind of build. The question is the run rate, right? I mean, imagine 5 to 20 years, from 5 to 10 years from now, all of a sudden, we have now 15, 20 million people who are not doing the jobs they used to. And this is kind of like, do we have enough run rate to kind of replace these jobs in such a short amount of time? I mean, that's what keeps me up at night. I'm interested in your point of view.
I hit this one quickly because Danielle, just for a second, then please take it. But it's interesting.
please.
I hear about the lack of jobs, and I agree that there have been jobs that are being displaced without a doubt. But what you would have heard 3 years ago is that we couldn't produce enough engineers for all the jobs that we had, and we had all the vacancies that couldn't be filled.
Yeah.
And there was an argument around the international population. We have many international students at UB came here because we needed to fill jobs that couldn't be filled. So I think we have to look at the context of this. So in the state of Connecticut, if every single unemployed person took a job today, you couldn't fill the jobs open in the state of Connecticut right now. So are they computer science jobs in companies that notoriously hired a larger number of computer science majors? No, that's not what they are. But are there jobs? Yes. So even as we're having this conversation at this moment, I could take everyone off unemployment, employ them, and I can't fill our workforce.
Good
so
point.
I think it's thinking of what would the student do? What are they interested in doing? And what would the student do to be employable? I think there's always been students who have gone to school and not gotten a job. I think that's always existed. I think there is displacement, without a doubt, in the computer science sector for people who have that very linear skill set of computer science, but didn't marry that with robotics or AI or something else, because maybe that wasn't available to them at the moment. But I'm not afraid that we won't have any more jobs down the road. I don't think that's going to be the case.
And I would add to what Elena said and just say, I think there's opportunity in our industry to help those individuals who need to skill up, add skills, pivot their skills, recalibrate their skills. And I don't think it has to be a long, lengthy, now you need to go back for another 2 years for another master's degree. I think there's opportunity to package these skills, these, just in time skills to help those individuals who are experiencing some of these challenges and shift them into the space that they can be more successful. And I think that's been true forever in every industry. There's always the pivots that happen. And we just need to be prepared and thoughtful. And it's part of why we have robust industry advisory boards here at University of Bridgeport, and that we are in close contact with the employers and finding out, where are those gaps? Where are those opportunities for what challenges are the employers having, and how might we be able to solve those problems?
So what I'm hearing, and this is an excellent point. So let's say you studied accounting, or you studied history, or whatever major that is, right? And anything that's not healthcare, because we know healthcare is going to be very safe for a long time to come, right?
Yep.
That's one of those safe havens. But it could be that, okay, you studied these majors, and now we need you to do algorithmic forensic, law, or you studied history, and now we need for you to, look at all these hallucinations that, AI does and whatever, or there's going to be new marketing that's going to be created for people who have certain skill sets. So because you have the basis prepared, you then fit into these new jobs. And obviously, I'm assuming higher institution is going to adapt to respond to these new jobs. So I think your point is well taken, which is we actually, a lot of states, Connecticut, Nebraska, South Dakota, they need people to work.
Correct.
Yeah.
Very, very good point. So I'll sleep better now.
You know what, we have a clinical laboratory sciences program here at University of Bridgeport, which is,
Yeah.
when you go to the hospital and you get your blood tested, those are the people who do it. That's one of my undergraduate degrees. And I tell our students in clin lab sciences, on paper, I have no business being like, I mean, I worked my way up and I got the experience and rounded out. But if you looked at what I graduated college with, this was not the obvious place for me to land as a destination role. And I tell them the skills that I learned, the thinking, the training, I don't use those hard skills anymore. I don't blood type anybody anymore. I miss those days, but I don't analyze anybody's blood anymore. But my thinking around standard operating procedures, my thinking around quality control, my thinking about how do you, independently problem solve when you work third shift at 3 o'clock in the morning and the machine breaks and there's nobody else to ask what you're going to do. They serve me well every day in this role. And so you have to think about that sort of skill base and how do you apply it in different ways.
Mm-hmm.
No, well put. I'm sorry, finish, Elena.
Yeah, I was going to say, just one day this week, I was chatting with a young man in San Diego who, interesting enough, he had not finished a college degree. He has a few courses he's taken, but he's really interested in Linux, like the operating system. Like that's his jam. That's what he wants. And he just didn't know how about getting employed. So I just did 3 quick searches and found him about 60 open positions in San Diego with Linux experience. So again, just using that analogy, you have this, people want this. It's going to be a much smaller bridge from what you have to what they want. Build it. Don't beat your head against the wall and try to get the exact same job you just got let go from. That's probably not going to be productive. But what might be productive is saying, what would interest me? What do I need to do to go from where I am to there? And then build that tiny little bridge you need to build. And because of AI, there's so many more platforms available. It shouldn't be that hard to do.
And know that we'll be here to support you along the way.
That's right. That's right. We'll help you.
So no, that's an excellent point. So last question: what will University of Bridgeport look like 5 years from now? Elena, why don't you take this on first, and then President Wilken put the capstone finale on our podcast, please.
Okay, I'm going to say that we are going to look not too dissimilar from what we look like right now. I think that we will have a few more students. I do hope that we get a few more international visas, interviewing spots open so we can have a few more international students back on our campus. We love the diversity. We have students from about 50 countries at the moment. We usually like about 80, so we'd like to bring that up. I think in terms of programming, this is something that as an institution we've been doing on a regular basis, where we analyze the programming, we analyze the job market. We have our industry advisory boards that help direct us. So I think what we will add is more microcredentialing. I think you'll see more microcredentialing off the programs that we're serving. We'll continue to do our program analysis for the workforce with our industry advisory boards. Probably have a few more sports. Athletics is pretty fun. We have 22 right now. I think we have a target to grow a few more. So I don't think that in 5 years from now, we look dramatically different. My biggest academic difference might be the microcredentialing, but then I'll turn it over to Danielle.
So I think that's a good place to pick it up. I would agree with Elena that we'll continue to be a comprehensive university that hosts international students, that hosts athletics and gives students a full experience. I think we will continue to grow our industry partnerships, and I think you'll actually see more businesses actually on our campus and more co-located with us. I think Elena is working with startups right now that we are supporting to get to their first rounds of funding. And so I think you'll see more of that, startup innovation. And I think you'll see more businesses that are run by our students, both as students of University of Bridgeport and new grads. We have a number of students who launch businesses while they're here on campus, and I think you'll see more of that. And I think we will continue to be an institution that responds to the environment and supports its students. Elena's point about microcredentialing, we started a regenerative medicine program this year with 2 of our alums who are leaders in that space, because we know that healthcare is shifting there. And we're not suggesting that students need to come back for a full degree. We're suggesting that they need to get additional skills and knowledge in order to be competitive and effective in that space. And so I think we're going to continue to support our graduates as well as the general workforce as they move into these new roles.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Likewise, thank you so much for having us.
Thank you. Yes, appreciate you.
My pleasure.
Bye.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the College Admission TV Presidential Podcast. Stay tuned for our next episode, where we'll bring you another insightful conversation with a distinguished leader in higher education.